Have you ever noticed that sometimes after a meal your joints feel stiff, swollen, or just uncomfortable, and you can't quite figure out why? It might surprise you. But some of the vegetables we think of as perfectly healthy could actually be making your joint pain worse, especially if you're over 60. Today, I want to talk about one of the biggest culprits and why it could be silently affecting your joints without you even realizing it. The first vegetable you need to be careful with is tomatoes. Now, I know most people think tomatoes are a superfood packed with antioxidants, vitamin C and lycopene, and they are great in moderation. But here's the thing, tomatoes belong to a family called nightshades, and nightshades contain a compound called solanine. Solanine is a natural toxin that plants produce to protect themselves from insects and disease, but in sensitive people, especially seniors, it can trigger inflammation. Inflammation is the #1 reason joints ache, swell, and feel stiff, and over time it can contribute to chronic joint problems. Think about it for a moment. After enjoying a tomato-heavy meal like pasta with tomato sauce, pizza, or even tomato soup, you might feel a little discomfort in your knees, fingers, or shoulders. At first, it's subtle, almost unnoticeable, but after weeks and months of regularly eating concentrated tomato products, your body can start reacting more strongly. Seniors are particularly vulnerable because as we age, our cartilage wears down, our joints lose some of their natural cushioning, and our bodies process inflammatory compounds more slowly. This combination can turn what seems like a harmless food into a source of chronic joint stress. Now, I want to be very clear that I'm not saying everyone will react the same way. Some people can eat tomatoes every day without a problem, but if you've noticed stiffness, swelling, or joint pain that seems worse after meals, it's worth paying attention. Many seniors don't realize that their discomfort could be linked to diet, and eliminating or reducing tomatoes could be a simple yet powerful change. For example, I've spoken with older adults who struggled with painful knees for years, and when they cut back on tomato sauces, pasta, and ketchup, they noticed their joints felt looser and morning stiffness was reduced. These aren't dramatic overnight changes, but over time, your body responds to reduced inflammation in a noticeable way. One important factor is how tomatoes are prepared. Fresh, raw tomatoes might be less problematic for some people, but sauces, stews, and concentrated tomato products increase the solanine content, making it more likely to trigger joint issues. And it's not just about avoiding tomatoes completely, it's about being mindful of how often and in what form you're eating them. Substitutions can make a big difference too. For example, roasted red peppers, carrots, or pumpkin can be used in sauces to give that sweet, rich flavor without adding inflammatory compounds. These alternatives are gentle on joints, but still allow you to enjoy your meals fully. It's also worth noting that the impact of tomatoes isn't just limited to joints. Inflammation affects energy, sleep quality, and even digestion. Seniors who are sensitive to nightshades often notice improvements not only in joint comfort, but also in overall well-being when they reduce their intake. It's one of those simple adjustments that can ripple across multiple areas of health. The key is awareness and experimentation. Keep a small journal of what you eat and how your joints feel, and you might start noticing patterns that you hadn't realized before. Over time, this kind of mindful eating can lead to reduced stiffness, increased mobility, and a better quality of life. Remember, small changes in your diet can have a huge impact on joint health. By understanding how tomatoes affect inflammation and being mindful of how often you consume them, you're taking a proactive step toward protecting your joints, improving flexibility, and enjoying movement without discomfort. Now let's move on to the second vegetable that can quietly sabotage your joint health. And this one might surprise a lot of people because it looks so harmless and even elegant on your plate. I'm talking about eggplants. You've probably enjoyed them in curries, roasted dishes, grilled sides, or even in pasta recipes, and they seem perfectly healthy, right? But here's the thing, eggplants are also part of the nightshade family, just like tomatoes, and they contain solanine and other compounds that can trigger inflammation in sensitive individuals. For seniors, this can mean more stiffness, swelling, and discomfort in the joints, even if you're not aware that your diet is contributing to the problem. Many seniors don't realize that what they eat directly impacts joint pain. It's easy to assume that vegetables are always beneficial, but in the case of nightshades, repeated consumption can exacerbate underlying inflammation. Think about it. You might enjoy a delicious roasted eggplant dish for dinner, and the next morning your knees feel slightly stiff or your fingers feel less flexible. It's subtle at first, and it's easy to dismiss it as part of aging. But over weeks and months, these small inflammatory triggers can add up, making joints feel older than they actually are. I've spoken with many older adults who struggled with chronic joint discomfort for years, and when they cut eggplants from their diet, the difference was remarkable. The stiffness in the morning eased, swelling reduced, and everyday movements like bending, walking, or even holding a cup felt lighter and more comfortable. It's one of those surprising changes where you don't notice the problem until it starts improving. The impact is subtle but powerful, and for seniors, every bit of relief counts because it affects mobility, independence, and overall quality of life. Another factor to keep in mind is how eggplants are prepared. Frying eggplants or cooking them in heavy sauces can increase the concentration of these inflammatory compounds, making them more likely to irritate the joints. On the other hand, if you're particularly sensitive, even roasted or baked eggplants can trigger discomfort. This is why it's so important to pay attention to how your body reacts. Try eliminating eggplants for a few weeks and observe any changes in stiffness or swelling. Keep track of meals and your body's response, because often the connection between food and joint health becomes clear only when you monitor it carefully. But don't worry, giving up eggplants doesn't mean your meals have to be boring. There are plenty of delicious alternatives that give you similar textures and flavors without triggering joint inflammation. Zucchini, squash, or even certain mushrooms can be used in place of eggplant in most recipes. These vegetables are gentle on your joints and still allow you to enjoy rich, satisfying meals. Making these swaps consistently can gradually reduce inflammation, improve flexibility, and help you feel lighter and more comfortable in your movements. It's also worth noting that reducing eggplants isn't just about lessening joint pain. Inflammation caused by nightshades can also affect energy levels, sleep, and even mood. Seniors who remove or limit eggplants often notice improvements in overall well-being. They wake up feeling less stiff, have more energy for daily activities, and experience a general sense of comfort that was missing before. It's amazing how such a simple dietary change can ripple through your body and make a noticeable difference. The key is awareness, paying attention to how your body responds to eggplants and other nightshades empowers you to take control of your joint health. Keeping a small journal to track meals, stiffness, swelling, and energy levels can reveal patterns that were previously invisible. Over time, these small adjustments, like reducing or replacing eggplants, can significantly improve joint comfort, mobility, and overall quality of life. When you start noticing that your joints feel more flexible, morning stiffness is reduced, and movements become smoother, you'll see that the effort is absolutely worth it. Seniors, your body deserves this care, and every thoughtful change you make in your diet is a step toward maintaining independence, mobility, and comfort. Now, the third vegetable I want to talk about might really make you pause because potatoes are such a staple in so many diets. Baked, mashed, roasted, fried, or boiled, they seem harmless and even comforting. But for seniors who are sensitive to joint inflammation, potatoes can actually be a hidden trigger. Like tomatoes and eggplants, potatoes belong to the nightshade family, which means they contain solanine and other compounds that can worsen inflammation in joints. And while not everyone will react the same way, seniors often experience more pronounced effects because as we age, our joints are more vulnerable, cartilage thins, and our bodies are slower to handle inflammatory substances. Potatoes themselves contain valuable nutrients like vitamin C, potassium, and fibre, so I'm not saying to eliminate them completely. It's about being mindful of how often and in what form you're eating them. Highly processed or fried potatoes, such as French fries, potato chips, or even heavily buttered mashed potatoes, are often the most problematic. The combination of concentrated nightshade compounds, added oils, and high heat can aggravate inflammation, which translates into stiffness, swelling, or discomfort the next day. You might notice it in your knees when walking upstairs, in your fingers when gripping utensils, or even in your shoulders when reaching overhead. Many seniors don't realise that what seems like normal aging could actually be worsened by diet. I've spoken with older adults who felt like joint pain was inevitable, only to find that simply reducing potato intake made a tangible difference. Morning stiffness lessened, swelling reduced, and everyday activities felt easier and less painful. It's not dramatic overnight, but over a few weeks, your body begins to respond positively. Small dietary adjustments like this can significantly improve mobility and overall comfort. Preparation matters a lot with potatoes. Boiling them briefly and draining the water can reduce some of the inflammatory compounds, but frying, roasting at high heat, or consuming heavily processed forms concentrates them. If you're sensitive, even baked potatoes with rich toppings might trigger discomfort. This is why paying attention to your body's reactions is crucial. A little observation goes a long way. Keeping a small food journal where you note what you ate and how your joints feel can help you identify patterns you might have otherwise ignored. Over time, you'll see which forms of potatoes are okay and which ones might be best avoided. Substituting potatoes with joint-friendly alternatives is another simple way to protect your joints without feeling deprived. Sweet potatoes, cauliflower, turnips, or butternut squash can provide similar textures and flavours in recipes, but without the inflammatory compounds that aggravate joints. For example, mashed cauliflower can be creamy and satisfying, roasted sweet potatoes are naturally sweet and rich, and turnips can replace potatoes in stews or soups. These swaps allow you to enjoy your favourite meals while giving your joints a break from inflammation. Reducing or modifying potato consumption doesn't just impact joint health. It can also improve energy levels, digestion, and overall well-being. Seniors who notice a difference in how they feel after eliminating or reducing potatoes often report better movement, more energy for daily tasks, and even a lighter, more comfortable feeling in the body. It's a simple change with a surprisingly broad effect, reinforcing the idea that small adjustments can lead to big improvements in quality of life. The key takeaway is awareness and mindful choices. By paying attention to how potatoes and other nightshade vegetables affect your body, you're taking proactive steps to preserve joint health, flexibility, and independence. Over time, eliminating or reducing these triggers allows your joints to feel lighter, morning stiffness to fade, and movements to become smoother. You might even find that your energy improves, your walks are more enjoyable, and simple activities like bending or reaching become easier. Seniors, your body deserves that care, and by making conscious choices about what goes on your plate, you're investing in mobility, comfort, and long-term health. Now that we've talked about the 3 vegetables that can aggravate joint pain, tomatoes, eggplants, and potatoes, it's important to understand how you can protect your joints and make simple changes that really add up over time. For seniors, every small adjustment in diet, lifestyle, and habits can have a surprisingly big effect on comfort, mobility, and energy levels. The key is not just removing these vegetables, but also focusing on what supports joint health, how you prepare your meals, and how your overall routine complements your diet. One of the first things to consider is balance. It's not about eliminating all vegetables or avoiding nutrients. It's about choosing those that nourish your body without causing inflammation. Leafy greens, broccoli, cauliflower, bell peppers, and zucchini are excellent alternatives that are gentle on joints, packed with vitamins, antioxidants, and minerals that help repair tissue and reduce inflammation. Adding these to your meals can help offset the effects of any unavoidable exposure to nightshades and provide your joints with the nutrients they need to stay flexible and strong. Cooking methods also matter more than most people realize. For nightshades like tomatoes, eggplants, and potatoes, frying or overcooking concentrates inflammatory compounds, but steaming, boiling, or lightly roasting with healthy fats can minimize their impact. Using olive oil instead of butter or avoiding excessive oil altogether makes a difference too. And seasoning with herbs like turmeric, ginger, garlic, and rosemary can not only enhance flavor, but also act as natural anti-inflammatories, supporting joint health and overall well-being. These small tweaks in the kitchen can create meals that are both delicious and gentle on your joints. Another simple but powerful tool is keeping track of your body's responses. If you experience stiffness, swelling, or discomfort, note what you ate and when the symptoms occurred. Over time, patterns emerge showing which foods help and which trigger discomfort. This practice gives you more control over your diet and empowers you to make choices that protect your joints and improve daily comfort. Journaling can also be motivating because as you notice improvements, you'll see that your actions are producing real results, and that encourages consistency and long-term change. Hydration is another often overlooked factor. Drinking plenty of water helps lubricate your joints, flush toxins, and support nutrient absorption, all of which contribute to less stiffness and more flexibility. Seniors sometimes forget the connection between water intake and joint health, but staying hydrated complements dietary changes and ensures your body is functioning optimally. Combining hydration with joint-friendly foods and mindful cooking can create a powerful foundation for mobility and comfort. Physical activity is just as important as diet. Gentle exercise like walking, stretching, yoga, or swimming keeps joints moving, strengthens muscles, and reduces stiffness. Even a few minutes a day can make a big difference, especially when paired with anti-inflammatory foods and smart meal planning. The combination of proper nutrition, hydration, and movement gives your joints the best chance to stay flexible, reduce discomfort, and allow you to enjoy daily activities without pain. Finally, remember that changes don't have to be drastic. Eliminating nightshades completely isn't necessary for everyone. Small adjustments, mindful substitutions, and gradual experimentation can make a significant difference. The goal is to create a sustainable approach that fits your lifestyle, tastes, and needs. By being aware of the vegetables that may worsen joint pain, experimenting with alternatives, and combining diet with hydration and gentle movement, seniors can experience noticeable improvements in flexibility, reduced stiffness, and better overall comfort in daily life. Now that we've covered the 3 vegetables that can quietly inflame your joints and practical ways to adjust your diet, let's focus on creating habits that support long-term joint health and overall wellness. This is where the pieces come together: your diet, cooking methods, hydration, movement, and mindful observation, all working in harmony to help you feel lighter, more flexible, and energized every day. The good news is that small, consistent changes often produce the biggest results, especially for seniors, because your body responds positively when given the right nutrients, care, and attention. One of the most effective habits you can develop is being intentional with your meals. Instead of automatically reaching for tomatoes, eggplants, or potatoes as part of your regular routine, take a moment to plan meals around vegetables that nourish rather than irritate your joints. Swap in alternatives like zucchini, squash, bell peppers, leafy greens, and sweet potatoes. These vegetables provide essential vitamins, minerals, and antioxidants without the inflammatory compounds that can worsen joint discomfort. Over time, your joints will thank you with increased mobility, less stiffness, and more ease in daily movements. It's also important to combine these dietary adjustments with anti-inflammatory foods that actively support joint health. Berries, fatty fish rich in omega-3s, nuts, seeds, olive oil, and turmeric are excellent additions. These foods help counteract any minor inflammation you might still experience, strengthen cartilage, and promote flexibility in your joints. Pairing these anti-inflammatory foods with your meals creates a balanced approach that not only reduces discomfort but also promotes overall health and longevity. Another critical habit is observing how your body responds. Keep a simple journal where you record meals, symptoms, energy levels, and mobility. This practice helps you identify patterns, understand which foods help and which may be causing discomfort. Often, we assume joint pain is just a part of aging, but by paying attention to what your body is telling you, you can make informed decisions that improve your daily comfort. Awareness is empowering because it gives you control over your joint health rather than feeling like pain is inevitable. Hydration should not be underestimated. Drinking adequate water every day supports joint lubrication, nutrient transport, and toxin removal. Seniors sometimes forget how important hydration is, but proper water intake complements a joint-friendly diet and helps reduce stiffness. Even simple habits like sipping water consistently throughout the day or starting meals with a glass of water can make a noticeable difference in comfort and energy. Movement is the final piece of this puzzle. Gentle exercises, stretching routines, yoga, or even short daily walks keep your joints flexible, strengthen muscles, and reduce the risk of stiffness and injury. When you combine movement with mindful eating, hydration, and anti-inflammatory foods, you're creating a comprehensive approach that addresses joint health from multiple angles. Seniors who adopt these habits often notice improved balance, strength, and confidence in their daily activities. Remember, it's not about perfection or eliminating all foods you enjoy. It's about making small, intentional choices that support your joints and overall health. Gradual adjustments, like reducing tomatoes, eggplants, and potatoes, swapping them with safer alternatives, incorporating anti-inflammatory foods, staying hydrated, and moving your body daily, compound over time. These steps lead to less discomfort, more freedom of movement, and a better quality of life. By taking control of your diet and lifestyle, you're not only protecting your joints, but also investing in your independence, energy, and enjoyment of everyday activities. Imagine waking up without stiffness, bending or reaching comfortably, walking without discomfort, and having the freedom to do the things you love. These changes are achievable, and starting with simple awareness and mindful choices today can transform the way you feel tomorrow. Seniors, your body deserves this care, and your joints deserve the protection that thoughtful diet and habits provide. Over time, you'll notice a stronger, more flexible, and more comfortable you, ready to move through life with confidence, energy, and ease